this is the first ever episode of the CAFC Charlton All-Time Fantasy 11 Club. Thank you so much for finding us. I just wanted to come in and say thank you very much to Mike Bow for the artwork, and all the guests have been absolutely amazing. I hope you enjoy it. I kind of explain what it's about in the episode, but yeah, this is the safe space, guys, don't worry. First episode is with the fantastic Mr. Greg Stubley. An amazing time talking to him. This was actually recorded just before he got made... It got put in the hot seat for Charlton TV. It was fantastic seeing him. It was lovely after having our chat to get him to see him doing that. He did a great job. But we all know him as the amazing commentator from Charlton TV. I hope you enjoy this. And I didn't get into it with him. I'm gutted I didn't, but I never got the story out of him of the very emotional, we've done it till comment that he made during the playoff final. So I'll ask him that. Get it, your comments in the YouTube comments below. Send us your message on Facebook. Who do you want in the next episode? We've got about 10 coming up. I hope you enjoy them. There'll be a vote at the end of those 10 episodes as to who you think's picked the best 10. But send in your 10 as well, or send in your 11. Sorry, should I say? Playing with 10. It does look like we're playing with 10 sometimes at the moment, but no. Get your best 11 in. Do any of Greg's choices make your cut? Who is he ridiculous for leaving out? Who's he ridiculous for putting in? So yeah, first episode. Very welcome, very big welcome to the amazing Mr. Greg Stubley. Hello and welcome to the Charlton All-Time Fantasy 11 Club. My name is Sam White. I'm your host, and this is a safe space for Charlton fans. It is depressing at the moment. God, you're actually joining us the week that we drew 1-1 with Cray Wanderers. So that kind of sets the tone of how things are going at the moment. And this isn't a place for that. There's loads of great YouTube channels for that. There's some fantastic guys out there covering the week and what the news is. And should Alfie May really be playing in a false nine? I don't know. This isn't the place for that. This is for the good times. This is for retro shirts. This is merch. This is talking about the best players, the good times, and there were some, I promise. So yeah, we've got some fantastic guests lined up. Got a couple of comedians. We've got some ex-players, hopefully, and none with more reverence than today's guest. The best thing I think that's come out of Charlton in the last 5 or 6 years has been Charlton TV. It is absolutely beautiful. Seeing people talk about Charlton is one of the best things in the world. It's like watching Match of the Day when we used to be in the Premiership. Like, people actually want to talk about us. I love it so much. And a key part of that is today's guest, and I will welcome the fantastic Mr. Greg Stubley. How are you doing, sir?
Mate, all the better after that introduction. Wow, thank you so much.
I don't think you realise how much because that's the thing. I've got friends that are Palace supporters, United supporters, and all they have to do is literally flick on TV and there's someone talking about them. There's nowhere to go for Charlton content. So Charlton TV is one of the highlights of the week, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the reaction to the last few years has been incredible, because when I started doing it, it was very much a audio only service. So I started in 2015, and with COVID, it was a massive shock to suddenly we were broadcasting from probably about 400, 500 people overseas, and this kind of niche following to suddenly every Charlton fan who had nothing to do on a Saturday was watching what was Valley Pass at the time, and with very limited resources our side to cover it. It was very much me and Terry Smith-Tell broadcasting from a stadium where we didn't control adverts. We didn't control anything that's going out beforehand.
The Papa John stuff was pretty. I mean, oh my God. Yeah. Unbelievable. So the first question I've got for you is, what came first? Is it a chicken and egg thing? What came first, the love for Charlton, or was it the commentary role? What happened? Tell me about your Charlton story.
Oh, mate, love for Charlton came first. So this isn't probably the usual route to being a fan. I don't have any family who are out and out Charlton fans. I grew up in Bexley Heath, which isn't that far away from the grounds. My dad was a Manchester United fan. He was a fan that was, he had a bit of history of Manchester United, but he didn't have any sort of close links. He wasn't from Manchester. He's one of those typical London-based Manchester United fans.
He's a glory hunter. You can say he's a glory hunter. That's fine.
Yeah, no I think he said his favourite seasons were when they weren't so good under Ron Atkinson and around there. But that's probably a lie. But I grew up watching Beckham, Scholes, Keane, players like that, and fell in love with it straight away, football. So I wanted to go to games, and then my dad took me to the Valley. So I went and watched Charlton v Blackburn. We lost 2-0, which was probably a sign of things to come.
What year was that?
2001. So it's December 2001.
So just on the way up. That's good times.
Yeah, well, he was aware of Charlton as a family club. He did a lot of work with them in the area, so he was really keen to take me to a space where he felt comfortable that I could fall in love with football. And as we know, with some of our South London rivals, it's not always the case. So I think he knew that you'd get Premier League football at a good price, and if I'd enjoy it. So he took me to one game. I think there was a special deal, actually. You can go to one game, and then we played Ipswich a week later. You might recall it's the game where we were 2-0 down after 15 minutes, New Year's Day, I think it was, and then we won 3-2. And it was around that period where Charlton had a good team. We were established Premier League team at that point. And then from then on, every year, more and more, it became Charlton, Saturdays, Tuesdays, Charlton. Was a season ticket holder. And I think this sounds like a really weird thing to say, but the first time I properly fell in love with the club, and I mean where I was like 100% Charlton, was actually when we got relegated, because it was the first time that I sensed that emotion where it was like, no, this is my team, and people laughing. It's like, no, this is my team. We're going to go back there. I'm still waiting. We're going to go back there. And it was that kind of feeling of what a football fan is supposed to be. I've had those highs, beating Arsenal, beating Liverpool, beating Chelsea, and then you experience the lows and drawing to Scunthorpe in our first game in the Championship, and suddenly this realisation, it's going to be difficult. And gradually, more and more, I became a bit more fanatical, started going to away games. Some of my friends were Charlton fans, started going to games with them. And then, I went to uni in Brighton, study sports journalism. So I always wanted to get into like the writing side or the broadcasting side. I didn't really know what at that point. And I messaged our local newspaper, which was News Shopper, about maybe doing some work for them, work experience. I thought I might be able to write a column about Charlton a week kind of thing. I created a blog and trying to get into it a bit more. And he said, we've got a game against Portsmouth next week, pre-season friendly, no one's covering it. Do you want to go down and do it? I was like, yeah, of course, yeah. So went down and did it. Long story short, I did a whole year doing News Shopper. It was amazing, interviewed players and got that experience, but I also got to meet the media team and get to know the media guys. And then they had a few people leave, and Ollie Groom, who a lot of people know, who used to be at the club for I think it's over 10 years as a club journalist, he was on his own at the time and contacted me and said, do you want to come in for the summer? And initially it was going to be a couple of weeks. Do you want to come in and do some work experience? Get a sense for what it's like to be at Charlton, but also it's great experience for you, and you'll be a massive help with producing a program handbook, etc. And I said, of course, yeah, no question about it. And I came in, and I never forget the first day I walked in, he took me aside and said, look, long story short, we're selling Joe Gomez today to Liverpool. He said, well, what do you think of this for a press release? So I was looking through the press release. I was like, oh my God, this is like, it's just like a completely strange environment. But anyway, so I got to work with the guys, and they hired another guy called George Jones, who I worked with at News Shopper, and became really good friends with them, still really close friends with them now. But there was a game where they were lacking a commentator, and I said, look, I'll do it. It was West Ham, pre-season friendly. Tell was on holiday. Peter Finch, who was the regular commentator at the time, wasn't around, and they were basically on their reserves of a reserves. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. Got to work with a guy called Alex Steadman, who's now at Chelsea. I think he's social media team at Chelsea. And we did the game. I don't know how many were listening, no idea, but I really enjoyed it. Thought it went all right. And then a couple of weeks later, the same thing happened. We played Dagenham and Redbridge in a cup game. There were hardly any commentators because the minor feedback I had from before went okay. Ollie said, look, do you want to do it again? I said, yeah, I'll do it. And then this time there was a bigger following, I think because it was a Tuesday night cup game. Yeah. And I remember getting all these lovely messages, and the club got some nice messages, and it was kind of like, okay, this might actually be a potential opportunity for me as something to do as like a side hobby. And then it was the year when things went to pot with Roland in the Championship, where we appointed Carol Fry. Peter Finch decided to leave, couldn't afford to travel, and fell out of love with the club a bit because of Roland. So he decided to step down.
He wasn't the only one.
Yeah,
a lot of people let.
And this is the thing. Like, if this was me now, you know, I'd probably have similar feelings. And Louis Mendes took over as one of the main commentators, and then he was also doing stuff for the South London Press, which he still does now. And Katrine Mayer at the time decided it was a conflict of interest for him to do commentary for Charlton and also criticise the club, which you can understand the way it happened. I mean, it's probably not for me to speak on Louis' behalf, but I can certainly say as a friend of his that he was treated badly and it wasn't a nice situation. So he had to step down. He was also doing BBC London, so there was a lot of conflict of interest, to be fair. And then I'd stepped up and kind of got given the permanent role, almost half by choice and half by a process of elimination. And I still do it.
It's amazing. I mean, what people always talk about with Charlton is how good our academy is, and there's always a platform for players to move through. You don't realise that the same thing's going on off the pitch, where we just haven't got anyone to do it. Who's the little work experience guy? Yeah, you'll do. Chuck him on. But that is a great thing about supporting a club like Charlton. You do feel like there are ways in, and you're not a million miles away from talking to the club. I mean, the fact that the manager under Dean Holden, I don't know if Appleton has yet, was going into the Royal Oak after the games and stuff. It does feel like a club where you can still get involved and chat to the people involved.
Yeah, it's a community club. Like, you know, the trusts are amazing. People, you know, even people sitting at home who might have a day job can still get involved. I mean, I've got a day job. I don't work for the club permanently, which people I don't think realise. Monday to Friday, I'm not associated with Charlton. I've still got a day job. So it's a club where there are voluntary places. There are times when you can do something permanently as well. It's you know, some of that is by previous ownership where it was down to the bare bones and people needed help, as I've kind of touched on with myself. But equally, you know, we are always open as a club to new opportunities. University of Greenwich links has always been good for the club, and you know, it is a special club. Like, I feel like you need Charlton people involved at the club. You just do. Everyone will say, "Oh, my club is the best," or "My club needs supporters involved," but Charlton has such a unique history with going back to the Valley and, you know, the ownership problems we have had, that I feel that having those people involved at the club mean a lot.
So yeah, a couple of questions from behind the scenes. We're at 23 minutes, but roughly each half, you and Terry swap from lead commentator. Is that just a chance to have a wee?
No, definitely not. I don't know where that stems from. I think purely it happened before I joined. I think.
Oh, really?
When Tel first started doing the commentary, so this would have been about 2010. It was him and Peter Finch sharing, and there was no sort of lead commentator. So I think it was very much a case of I'll lead for the first 20, you do the next 20 or whatever it is, the next 50 odd, 60 odd minutes, and then I'll take over again. And then when I first started, I wasn't doing lead commentating and I was just doing the co-commentating. And then one day Tel just said to me, I did a game when Tel wasn't there, I did a few. He went, "Oh, did you want to do lead?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." He said, "I'll tell you what, I'll hand you over after 23 minutes. And I think there was one point we discussed maybe having a lead, I think during COVID, where people were probably a little bit like, well, why are they swapping? And we discussed maybe taking in turns, like one game Tel does it, one game I do it. And then we spoke to a few people at Charlton for like feedback on whether we should do it. And people were like, actually, I like the way it is. I don't know, it's just like a weird quirk. It's a bit like TMS do it, like BBC Radio do it. And I think it's just a way of just getting, so you wouldn't get the same co-commentating voice 24/7, which I know some people get a little bit annoyed by. And you get different opinions, etc.
So what do you see as because for me, the lead commentator is the person you listen to on the radio and they're telling you where the ball is and that kind of thing. And then the co-commentator sort of chips in with a bit more what they're probably thinking, why they did that kind of thing. But you both do a bit of both, don't you? Even when one's lead and one's co.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I started off just doing co, and this was before we had things like replay. So it was quite a hard task. And you when we're doing radio, you have to talk a lot more. So you have to sort of say the ball was passed from the halfway line over diagonally, and you have to give, when we've got the TV in front of us, there's no point in me repeating where players are, what they're doing. The problem is that we do have some that listen and some that watch, and you can't really separate the two. So we have to try and do it in a way where people listening can understand that we're talking to a TV audience. And I probably am a little bit guilty of saying, look at this here when looking at a screen. But yeah, I personally prefer co-commentary because it's an opportunity to explain. I like the tactical side of the game. I like trying to explain, where I think something's gone wrong. And when we've got people like Brownie, Scott, and Curbs in the studio now, it's a lot easier because if you're unsure of something before, you kind of had to give your opinion and say, especially if people listening. But now it feels like if we're not sure, we can just leave them to decide in the studio and get their opinion a bit better.
Do they ever slate you? Have you ever had it where Steve Brownie's gone, what is Greg talking about? Are you joking? Because he used to do it in the studio for a little while. You had 3 of you up there, didn't you?
Yeah. No, he still does it. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do commentating so much purely from one. He used to do the away games with us, and it just cost too much for him to travel, really, and he'd travel on his own, and it didn't really make sense. Plus, I think the 3 of them worked so well in the studio that they wanted to keep that as a permanent thing, really, because the rapport works so well between them all. In answer to your question, no, to be honest, I can't stress highly enough what amazing guys they are. Like, considering their career, their background, it's very easy to question why fans are doing the commentary. And, we have a good level of banter between us that in terms of Brownie, will say something about Tell thinking everything's a penalty. We'll say something about Brownie being a bit of a miserable sod. And all 3 of them have become colleagues as much as anything. And that's a weird feeling to say that, to be honest, even now after doing it for a few years. But what they've given us is credibility. We have the opportunity to hand them people back to the studio for the real insight, the real opinions. What we can do as fans, though, is give what we see and what we portray. That's not always correct. And I'm sure fans will watch games and think, what is Greg talking about there? What is Tell talking about there? Or I disagree with Tell, or disagree with Greg. What I hope they realise is that when we're saying it with a Charlton heart. And, and I think, we're not perfect. We're not, well, certainly not to the levels of Sky and BBC trained. But I hope it's enough that fans can recognise that we have the kind of fan in us doing the commentary, and then the professionalism coming through in the studio to make a good product.
Mate, in comparison to some other, I have to say I've caught a couple of other like away games where they've had the away commentators. It is amazing. The standard is unbelievable in comparison to those. Terry can be a bit biased sometimes. Of course he can. Who's to say whether that's right or not? But some of them you watch and you're like, this is unbelievable the way they slate like just Charlton just playing football. But then I am a Charlton fan, so I'm always going to say that.
Yeah, well, Tell like if you took that away from Tell, the bias side, or not necessarily,
you wouldn't have anything else to say.
It'd be more the case that it just wouldn't be the same. Like he cares about this club more than anyone I know. Like he does stuff for the club for free on a consistent basis. Oh, sorry, mine just paused. He does things on a consistent basis that I don't think people perhaps recognise. And I'm not just saying this because he's a close friend of mine now, but he will be the first to tell you he gets carried away sometimes with decisions, especially in the old days we didn't have replays. He'd be like, referee, that's a disgrace.
Yeah.
And, he knows he can't get away with that now. He knows there's more people watching, there's replays, and there's 3 professional guys who can slay him in the studio if he gets it that far wrong. So
that must be the trickiest thing, because you're trying to give obviously your commentator, you've got to be professional, you've got to be on the level. But it's sort of like watching, when Gary Neville's commentating on United, like he's 2 seconds away from swearing. How often do you swear? And do you have a cough button that you're allowed to press? Have you ever had to mute yourself? How does that work?
No. I mean, there's times where you swear not verbally, but you kind of you make the gesture, or you'd be like, put it this way, if we had a camera on me during games,
so you're just there going like that.
No.
Okay.
Just for the record, no. But I will go. I'll slam things, and it's funny. My other half goes to games every now and then, and she's able to sit fairly near us. And she went to a game recently, and she said, "I never realised how much because before we used to sit down and commentate. Where we are in the curb stand now, we stand on the gantry, so we stand up."
Yeah.
And she said, I pace up and down, kind of like a nerve thing where, I'm just waiting for something to happen. I'll be kicking things. I'll slam the thing. Yeah, it's quite funny. If ever there was a camera put on me, you'd have to like kind of just kind of try and stay still, because it does get a bit yeah, like you say, it's the blood in you in the fan in you is constantly.
Well, that's you're kind of, the way I see it, you're kind of head of the fans. You're kind of representing everyone, but with a professional head. So you're feeling everything we're feeling, but you're not allowed to say, "What the fuck are you joking? What is he? Why is he playing him?" You can't say that. You have to just go, "Well, I think there was a slightly misplaced pass there," and you've got to be very measured about it. No, it sounds almost impossible, and I'm guessing that's why. You grow into it, and that's probably a nice way of doing it. That your story sounds like you've sort of grown up the levels, and starting especially from a journalism role where you're analysing first. That's pretty special. So what I'll do, we'll end up talking for 2 hours if we don't go on to the team. But what I love about this, Greg, is that you're so Charlton now that I gave you the task, pick your all-time fantasy 11, and you just made it so much more difficult for yourself. You're like, right, give us the parameters you put in place for your team.
Yeah, well, first of all, I thought, do I do like best 11? So that's the best 11 players I've seen in the Charlton shirt. And then I thought, well, you'll end up with similar answers every week.
We haven't got that many. We haven't. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, you'll end up with 6 that are the same every week.
Yeah.
And then I thought, do I do 11 players that I just loved? And I thought, well, then it becomes a little bit like silly. I'll start putting people in who've only had one good game or 6 months good games. So I thought I'd do a mix of players that meant a lot to me in a sense of like why I support Charlton, players who I just love watching, players that are a bit mental, that were great value, teams that were players that were a bit of a maverick. There was a lot of players that I was like, I was trying to shoehorn them in, or thought so there'll be players that I'll give mentions to as I describe players that could have easily gone in there. But yeah, that was the hardest thing. Was pinpointing, do I want to do the best XI I've ever seen, or 11 should I say I've ever seen, or do I want to do the team that if I was a paying fan week in, week out, I could choose any Charlton team, this would be it. And I think that's what I've tried to do.
Okay. I mean, it sounds lovely. I was getting emotional then. Right, let's start it off with your keeper, and this is one that I think will get a lot of votes as we go on. You've chosen Mr. Dean Kiley.
Enjoy this one. But we showed Benty the 2 goals against them on Saturday, and now we see some incredible saves.
For me, the best shot stopper.
What do you remember about this?
I started going games from 2001.
Could you come for the cross? And then I'm thinking, well,
we've had a lot of keepers since then, and we've had some very good keepers. I feel like we've been blessed with keepers. But Dino was one for me who was Premier League class. Could have maybe, if he was a bit younger, could have gone on to a bigger, better team eventually. I think as a goalkeeper, he had everything he wanted. Great guy as well. Apparently, Brownie speaks very highly of him. It's a shame where he's currently at.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, these days you're displaying now a prime example, like fantastic shot stopper. He had a brilliant side when he played, and he is the reason why I think we won games, because of those sort of saves. So it was an easy choice for me having Dino there.
He's turned into a bit of a silver fox as well at the end there. You saw he's got a lovely shade of grey on him now. But yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, to be fair, he came in after Illich, and you sort of think that guy's never going to go. He's put us into the Premier League. Like we're never gonna swap Illich out for anyone. And Kiley just came along, and within I think the first half, you're like, oh right, yeah, this is what a proper keeper looks like. We'll take him. I mean, he's fantastic, and he's joined that Scott Carson club of having some of the worst teeth in football as well. I mean, I think he's got about 3 or 4 missing in most of his clips.
I mean, I've got to be careful what I say here about goalkeepers, because my boss is actually a keeper, so I've got to be very careful what I say here. But yeah, you don't always get the nice looking goalkeepers, do you, these days?
They throw themselves about. Then that can't all be Edison's or Allison's. Yeah. Allison's not bad looking, but
that's a whole new podcast, mate. Good looking.
There you go. Yeah. The best looking 11. That's what it should be doing. Do you remember much about his distribution?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, we talk about goalkeepers, even in the 90s, people like David Seaman, Peter Schmeichel probably is the anomaly to this, but would they cope with modern day requirements of, kicking, playing out from the back? The way I look at it is that Dean Kiley, for the Charlton side at that point, we were not playing 5-yard passes inside our own penalty area. We weren't going long necessarily, but we weren't about that. Now, his kicking wasn't the best, but I don't recall losing a game because of it as such. I don't recall losing many a game because of it. And I think, modern day techniques and modern day coaching, maybe he'd have developed that a lot sooner. I mean, look at Nick Pope. Nick Pope's a prime example. He's another keeper that we've obviously had who still his kicking's not great, but he's an England international. He plays for a Champions League side. Doesn't matter to the extent of, Newcastle maybe not having success. I don't think so. I think it's a little bit overstated of how much you need a keeper to kick and be good. Yeah, you want them to be comfortable and be able to receive the ball, but it shouldn't be the first port of call in my eyes.
I mean, I think if you've got, I think Mark says it on, for those of you that listen to Charlton Live, the podcast, Mark's one of these people who constantly talks about, I'd rather they just save the goal. I don't mind if they're booting it out into the stands. I don't care if they're setting up, as long as they're saving it. And Kiley just seemed to be a level above everyone else that was around at the time. He was best keeper. When we went to the Championship after we got relegated, I think he was the best player in the league. Probably still one of the best players in the Premiership.
Right. Yeah, he's a keeper who, I think when you think of keepers, sometimes you think of mistakes. It's like, oh yeah, he was a good keeper, but that, like you talk about Stefan Anderson, a good example. He made some wonderful saves, but I remember him making mistakes. Scott Carson was a great keeper for us in the Premier League, but everyone says Scott Carson and you think of the England's mistakes he made. Like it's a harsh, brutal reality of being a goalkeeper. With Dean Kiley in a Charlton shirt, and I can't speak for anywhere else, I don't associate him making mistakes for us. Can't
think of one.
And there was probably one he should have done better. There's probably loads. But, when you look at Charlton establishing themselves as a Premier League side and who was at the heart of that, he was the constant for 3-4 years until I think Stefan Anderson and then Thomas Muir came in eventually, and then Scott Carson. And it's one of those players that you look back and go, if we had him for another couple of years, would we have been okay? Would we have been better side? Was that a bit of a mistake in hindsight?
Because I can't remember. Do you remember where he went on to?
I think he joined Portsmouth, didn't he? I think Harry Redknapp joined Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And I think he did well there. I think he's one of those players who, everywhere he went, people liked him.
He was just Mr. Consistent, wasn't he?
Yeah, and it's a shame. I think rumour has it that he wanted to be our goalkeeping coach not too long ago, and it didn't happen. And I wonder if that would have been a fantastic opportunity, because he certainly seemed to be a brilliant coach. I mean, you look at Sam Johnston now at Palace, sadly, is looking like a very good goalkeeper for them. And they've had good keepers over the last few years, and before that, I think he was at West Brom with Ben Foster, and he's worked with some really good, talented goalkeepers. So I think he could have been an asset in that way for us as well.
It's just nice to keep people like that around the club as well. You did speak so much about Kirbishley always says, you look at who they are, you want them to be a good lad. Even Dean Holden was saying it, the no dickheads policy. Dean Kiley is one that you could it feels like he's a barometer of who the dickheads are. Although I have heard a couple of stories about a defender that might have had to leave. It was sort of a choice between him and Dino as to who went, and I don't know how true that is. I'm saying that I heard it at one of the Kirbishley evenings, and they didn't say who it was, so I don't want to. I mean, I could get in trouble, so I won't go into it. We skipped past your formation. Do you want to tell us what formation you're playing?
Yeah, so this is there's two reasons for this. One, because I actually love this formation. I think it's one of the most underused formations in football. And two, it was a way of shoehorning a few players in, a way of getting 3 strikers in, shall we say? I've picked a diamond, so 4-1-2, 4-1-2-1-2. As people might recall, that's the formation we used under Lee Bowyer for our promotion campaign in the 1920 season, and I love it, to be honest. I think if you've got good, energetic midfielders and good fullbacks, then you can play it because you get 2 up top. And I'd like our current team to play it, to be honest. I think it's a formation that could suit us there, but that's for another conversation.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't know how much it would have helped us against Cray Wanderers, but couldn't have gone any worse. So speaking about the fullbacks being energetic, getting up and down, who's your right back?
Yeah. So again, this pick actually is a combination of the best and one that I've always liked, and that was Luke Young.
Press play on the video. Here we go.
Yeah, no worries. But Luke Young for me was a defender who had a lot. I mean, you're showing him leave Charlton and going to bigger, better things.
Videos of Luke Young in a Charlton shirt. This is him scoring for Middlesbrough against Spurs.
Yeah,
because there's literally no. I don't think he ever got a goal. He might have got one or two, but there's no.
Well, there is a goal that stands up in my mind. And that's against Liverpool, where I think it was Kishishev played this ball around the corner, no look flick through, and then the ball deflected to Luke Young, and he smashed it underneath his jersey dudek of Liverpool through his legs.
Oh, wow.
But I think the reason I always liked Luke Young is because when I first went, he was kind of like a bit part player where he played a lot. He was first team, but he wasn't, sometimes at centre half, sometimes at right back. And I saw him develop year on year as a young fan, into this right back who's playing for England. And I just think he got better. He's one of those players who probably, applied himself really well in training and got better and better and better. And I just felt he was an all-round fullback by the time he left the club. And it's a shame of how when he was probably at his peak, where you see there with Middlesbrough and then Aston Villa, was when we were declining. If it was the other way around, he probably would have got even more recognition at the club. But
he's another one of those that, I don't think he was particularly rapid. He wasn't like aggressive like a Ben Thatcher or a Ryderson. He just consistently was in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. Never really saw a mistake from him. And I think you're right. I think some players have got a lot of talent, and you see them not matching that, and they lose the fans. Luke Young's one of those players who he didn't seem to have much like going for him, but everything he did so well and with so much passion, and he worked as hard as he could. I think that's why he wins the fans rounds all the time.
Yeah, and I think as well, I feel like any Charlton player who represents England while they're at Charlton deserves a little bit more credibility, because it is a rare thing, as we've seen now. Mid-table Premier League sides don't usually get loads of players playing internationally. And I think if you look at England's right backs during that time, obviously you have Gary Neville as the standout one. And while there wasn't, a lot of players behind him, it's still an incredible achievement to represent England, not once or twice, but a few times. And it's a shame that it didn't happen more when he was at Charlton, really, because as I said, I think he was a little bit of an unsung hero of that period where he was consistent. When he was injured during the, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was injured during the year we got relegated in the Premier League quite a lot. He had quite a bad injury, and we didn't play him a lot. I could be completely wrong, but I seem to remember him being injured. He might have been captain or vice captain that year as well. Brownie will tell you that he learned everything from him. In that little crossover. I couldn't get Brownie in his team. I think I saw Brownie play once, so I did say to him I was doing this a few weeks ago, and I said, just to warn you, you won't be in it. He could be 12th man.
Maybe goalkeeper. Talk about
if we only have one on the bench, he's perfect because he can play right back.
Exactly, play anywhere. Right, centre backs. Talking of centre backs, let's go on to your. You got two centre backs. Who do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about El Kakori first.
Let's play this video. Hang on a second.
This goal is everything. This goal is one of my top 3 Charlton goals. And this song as well. Music.
This is
proper nostalgia. This is.
I'd forgotten about that song, to be honest, until I found that video.
It's classic. He is the definition of a maverick.
I've never watched the centre back so much and just gone shoot, just a whole stadium. Anytime he touched the ball after that goal.
Do you remember that goal he scored? It was a free kick that was just a cross, and it just went past everyone and it went in. It was about from like near the halfway line, and it was just like he went through this state. I think he might even. Again, I probably should have got my facts right, but I'm pretty sure he scored that season. I think
he scored a few. I don't know. I haven't got the stats in front of me how many he got, but that he definitely got a couple. But the sort of every time he touched the ball, I think everyone just felt like he's gonna score now. He's gonna just shoot from inside your own half. You're gonna score every time. He was unbelievable. Just a rocket on him.
Yeah, and like I said, this is my side that's made up of talent and also players I loved. And I think it's safe to say he's not the best defender we've ever had. I think he probably made a little, especially towards the end of his Charlton career, he probably made a few mistakes that might have cost us games and stuff. But he was a player that, especially that 04-05 season, I think when he joined, where we just went through this period and he just seemed to score a screamer or score a goal or do something great, and he was a bit of a cult hero for that, really. And yeah, just, it's a bit contradicting this, because I've always loved defenders that are brilliant defenders who are fantastic, win balls in the air, win tackles and stuff. He wasn't necessarily renowned for that, but I think having a little bit of flair at the back is always quite an enjoyable watching experience as well.
Well, it's something different for us, isn't it? I mean, we go from Brown to him, Steve Brownie to him, and yeah, you are looking at something completely different.
I can imagine Brownie critiquing him during a match like on Charlton TV. It'd have been absolute. What's he doing there, Keys? What's he doing? That's what
he's shooting from here, boy.
Yeah.
All right, from one centre back to the next one. We'll talk about this man. Let's play. I'll play the video first.
Johnson could be free here, away from the marking for once. And George Costa redeemed himself with a very swift recovery.
I mean, how many centre halves can you say won the Champions League and represented Charlton? Joe Gomez probably won. But I mean, that season was the first year I started watching Charlton. And I remember like my dad saying, "Oh, they've got this Portuguese centre half at the back," and I was 6 years old, so like he could have been Portuguese, he could have been English. It didn't make it Scooby Doo to me. Like I don't care. And he's raving about him. And I remember like I wish I could remember the game, but I remember this one. It might have even been that one. I think I was at that Chelsea game, but I just remember this one particular game where he was just unbelievable. Like he would win every tackle and header, and it was just one of those games where he was just outstanding. And I remember like I started playing football around that time, and I was playing as a defender at the time, and like thinking, wow, I want to be him. And that was ironically the first player I seem to remember thinking that about. There's a couple others that are in this team that I'll mention later, but he was the first one where I was like, wow, he's genuinely like a brilliant defender. He's genuinely a brilliant player.
It had that feeling to me of like your brother turning up on a Sunday league. Your brother happens to play for a professional like Premier League club, and you're all playing for a pub team. Like it just seemed like he was that much bigger, stronger, better, read the game better, covered the pitch, and yet was massive. Like he was a big lump, wasn't he? But he seemed to be everywhere. Yeah,
and like I said, I think it was rare to have. Like you've got to imagine it at the time. It wasn't like now where a team gets promoted from the Championship and they have like 100 million to spend. I know that was, I think, our second season back or third season in the Premier League. It was our third season in the Premier League, second since we got promoted as champions, right? So we started signing these overseas players, but most of them had played for like Bolton or, if it was Sean Bartlett or somewhere, it's a little bit more rogue in like South Africa or whatnot. But that was the signing. You're signing from Porto, you're signing from Portuguese. Is Portugal international, and then to get a player like that, even though it was only 6 months he was with us, then goes back and wins the Champions League a year later.
I mean, that impact of that. I mean, just making the name of the back line, Young Fish, cost a fortune. That was that for that alone, he needs to be the best. But do you know the story of how we got him?
No, I don't.
So basically, it was literally just, and this is the benefit of being a Premier League club in London. He was out of the team in Porto. He wanted to play in the World Cup, so they were just like, "Well, where can we get him into?" We're in London. It's the best place he can come, and he's going to be guaranteed week in, week out football. And they just Coventry just signed him up. I mean, that's the difference between a Premier League team. That's why, like, I know Palace have just got that Brazilian player, but you're in that position where we're a London club. We've got a big fan base, and we're in a nice place to be as well. That's why it's even more amazing when teams like Bolton or Hull do well. But that's the benefit of being a club in London, is that you will get players like that who go, well, I just want to go to a nice club somewhere that's got a nice city around it. So yeah, 6 months was enough, and he had a huge impact on us.
Yeah, and you got to look at the sort of strikers. And to be fair, I say this to going back, I'll mention him a lot, but Brownie, talking to him about Premier League strikers around that time, you know, he was dealing with Thierry Henry, you know, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Alan Shearer.
In that video, like, that isn't anyone to be sniffed at.
No, we're talking about. I mean, if you look at Premier League strikers now, you've probably got 4 or 5 that are, or certainly like Haaland, for example, and then you've got probably 4 or 5 that are really good. But then you're kind of struggling to name a world-class striker, or certainly a top class striker. Whereas you look at the Premier League, then they mostly played with 2 up top. Arsenal had Bergkamp and Henry. Man United had Ruud van Nistelrooy, Andy Cole, players like that.
Dwight York and Zaha on the bench.
Dwight York, Craig Bellamy. Like, they had constant players that were high class.
Yeah.
And for George Costa to come over from overseas, come to the Premier League and deal with these players and be remembered for that, just goes to show what an outstanding player and talent he was.
Absolutely. Right. Left back, I think this is probably going to be picked by about 95%, but who else could you pick? Who have you gone for, Greg?
Has to be the one and only Chrissy Powell.
The inventor of this. Right, I'm going to choose.
I love seeing it. It's great.
That is one of the biggest contributions to Charlton. The tunnel jump has become synonymous now. But there was a time we didn't do it, and Chris Powell just used to do it as a player, didn't he? I think I'm right in thinking he's the inventor of it, isn't he? No one did.
I don't know for sure. I think there might have been Mark Kinsella who did it, maybe as like a celebration, but I think it's most synonymous with Powley for sure. I think he was the one that maybe took it from being like a player did this before to this happening every week kind of thing. And yeah, I'm picking him for 2 reasons. One, because he's a fantastic player and amazing fellow who got picked for England as well, as I mentioned with Luke Young, but also for what he did for the club as a whole. You know, that I know we're not picking players based on their managerial career, but Powley as a manager, he made me love Charlton even more. You know, it has to be said. He took a team that was failing, doing horrendously to some amazing memories, and you know, it's the way it all finished for him is really sad. Really, you know, that last game was a real missed opportunity for the club. But from a playing point of view, he was a brilliant player. I remember like getting on a Valley coach once, and they had this. I wish I could remember her name, but there was this woman on the coach who was obsessed with Chris Powell. Had like a Powell shirt, Powell everything. And at the time, I was still quite young, so I was kind of like, "Oh, Chris Powell's your favorite." Didn't really know the reasons why. And in that game, he nearly scored. I think he hit the bar. Had a brilliant game, and I'm thinking, that's why people love Chris Powell. Like, great. And then
he's unbelievable. I mean, best smile in the team as well.
Yeah.
I listened to the Mod Mag podcast where they talked to Pete Varney, and they were saying that they set it up so that Powell gave over like three players they wanted in each position, and then Pete Varney went, right, I'll go and get you one of these in each thing, because that year they brought in about 18 players, was it? I think the second year he was in charge, first full year. It was insane, and he literally brought in these all these players together, and they said they're about 1 year. If they had stayed on one more year, if they continued with that, there's a good chance we could have pushed on to the Premiership, and then it all fell apart halfway through because Roland came in. And you do think like he was the perfect kind of Charlton man to kind of get us back, and he never had that chance to do it that second year.
We're a club of what ifs. There's a player later on we'll talk about who is very much part of that, but the what ifs of Charlton is cost us. Like similarly when we got promoted Lee Bowyer, like if we kept Joe Aribo, if we kept Patrick Bauer, and then signed the players we did end up signing, we probably would have maybe even finished playoffs, let alone stay up. That season you talk about Powley, all we needed to do was 3 or 4 more signings
Yeah.
of a little bit more quality. I mean, at the time of recording, Ipswich are second in league in the Championship after getting promoted straight from League One. It can be done. You know, you carry on that wave of positivity. You start the season well. You've mostly kept your same players, and yeah, he created some of the best days I've had as a fan, and that was being in League One as well. Which,
yeah.
Considering I saw us beat Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, etc., those days in League One almost meant more because of what we went through during that period.
Going on to the midfield, you've got 3 in the middle. Well, you've got 4 in the middle. Do you want to start with the base of the diamond?
Yeah. So this is very much. I mean, to be fair to him, I think he's an outstanding player, and I think he's showing that in the Premier League this season as well. But this one is very much a case of I wanted to get someone to represent my favourite years at Charlton within the team. Now, there's someone on this team we couldn't pick who probably was a standout player from this season. But the 1920 season with Lee Burry at the helm and getting to Wembley and going up via the player final, I wanted to get someone from that squad into my team. And the reason I picked this player is because, firstly, he's a brilliant player. He is a wonderful player. He gives his all, which is a bit of a cliche, but he generally does. He gives his all. I'll never forget, he dislocated his shoulder halfway through the season and was back within like a month, which was ridiculous. But he was a player that, you know, I actually got to do a comment. Did a game. We commentated with him for a game, and it was him and Lewis Page, who is another really nice human being, and both of them were just obsessed with Charlton, which I found weird because Cullen was on loan. I know Page was with us permanently, but they were both asking questions about Charlton. And you know, we, when they did commentary with us, this was probably like November time, so it wasn't like we were top of the league or anything. And I was just really impressed. I was kind of like, well, I've never really had that from a player who's not come from Charlton's academy, or, you know, Josh was alone at the time. Well, he was alone for both years we had him. And I remember that leaving a mark on me. And I remember talking to him about Ireland and like his ambitions. And he said to me, I want to play for Ireland. So sorry, this is Josh Cullen I've picked. I've realised I've lived this before that. And I haven't said his name. I'm not happy.
Let's show a couple of highlights. Hang on.
Yeah, but this is the measure of the man. Like, you know, taking a penalty in the 90th minute at West Brom away, good passer of the ball, both feet, brilliant tackler. This penalty here was a great moment. I mean, I think that was the first penalty he'd ever taken in his career. You know, and he's a player that I just like watching. You know, I felt like if we had Josh Cullen in the team, we always had a chance no matter the opposition. And you see him now playing for Burnley in the Premier League, and he's not looking out of sorts. I know Burnley haven't, again, at the time of recording, had the best of starts of the season, but, you know, it's a player that it went to Anderlecht after being with us, and they loved him there, and Vincent Kompany took him to Burnley as a consequence. But that playoff season, that League One playoff winning season, he, for me, was probably, with the exception of Lyle Taylor, of course, was our best player, a constant player that season in middle midfield. You know, and I feel like in a when you're building a squad, you need that kind of player that can be solid, who can pass, who can tackle, you can trust upon, and he was that player. And it was for me, it was between him and someone like Matty Holland. Johnny Jackson narrowly misses out on this team as well. But I wanted to get someone from that squad in, and I looked at who I loved the most during that period, and Josh Cullen was certainly almost top of that list, if not top of it.
I mean, we do really well with centre mids on loan. I mean, the first one I kind of went, God, how we got him was Alex Song, and then you get Conor Gallagher. Yeah. We had another fella from Arsenal, another centre mid. I can't remember his name, but he went off and played in the Champions League. But I don't know what it. That's it. Yeah, Coquelin. And you just look at players like that and you go, why Charlton? But obviously, it's a good club. You know you're going to get a chance. If you're good enough, you play. And we got the same with Louis Watson at the moment, another Premier League centre midfielder who's absolutely tearing it apart as far as I can see. I think he's very unlucky to lose out to Scott Fraser on the times when I know I said I wasn't going to talk about current stuff, but like Louis Watson is another one of those in that mould where he's just come in on loan, And I'm worried about falling in love with another player that at the end of the season or in January, like Conor Gallagher. I mean, that was, Frank Lampard, how you getting on? Yeah, well, they're rubbish. We're just going to take away their best player. Just kick us while we're down. But yeah, Cullen was unbelievable. So two in the middle of the park. I mean, these two are pretty big standouts. So who are you going to go for first?
Yeah, first one.
Can you say the name before you go a bit mad?
Yeah, sorry, I'll keep doing it. Scott Parker. Reason being,
I'll mute your thing. There we go.
Reason being, best player I've seen. Quite simply. I mean, that is world class. You know, we went on to briefly captain England. This is like nostalgia. This afternoon.
This is where we are. This is what this is for. I mean, he just. I think it's so horrible that all we've got to look back on is like when he left. But some of the goals and just turning the team, like turning that he became that team, didn't he? He was just the complete player. And also, I love the story from Curbs where he came to him and he said, right, what do I have to do? How do I get in the team? And he went, well, Klaus Jensen's in the team. He likes to go forward. So if you want to play, you've got to toughen up. You've got to be my sort of defensive midfield movers. And he just had the whole gambit when he came back from that loan.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, when he left, I was too young to really get into the politics of it. In such as like, for me, like a player leaving Charlton to join another team wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I wasn't aware of like the kind of circumstances in which he left. Had that been like today, he probably don't get in my team at all. But I more remember those good moments, and we saw plenty during that period. That I remember watching a game on TV, and he scored 2 belters against Southampton. I know we lost that game, but it was genuinely like, this guy is unbelievable. I mean, he won Young Player of the Year in the Premier League that year that he left us. Like. And that wasn't because of what he did for Chelsea. I think he hardly played for Chelsea, which said it all.
It's so sad because I mean, when we played Chelsea, we beat them 4-2 on Boxing Day.
Yeah.
A couple of months later, he goes. But I'd say, and no one who isn't a Charlton fan believes me, and I'm probably very biased, but when he went to Chelsea, he was on a par with Frank Lampard, and he was better than Joe Cole. And he went there and he became 4th choice, and he just didn't play. And then you just see the decline until he goes to Newcastle, was it? And he just didn't do it. He wasn't getting game time. He was a big fish in a small pond at Charlton, and he really led that team completely through that season. Yeah,
I mean, in my personal opinion, I know hindsight's brilliant, but it was destined. He could have been Roy Keane's replacement at Man United. You know, Keane was coming to the end there. And you look at that Chelsea team, Lampard, Makelele, you've mentioned Joe Cole's more of a wide player, but they had so much talent in their midfield. It wasn't like a desperation position for them. Whereas, you know, we if you look at Man United, that was a problem area for them until they signed Michael Carrick, 3 years later, 2-3 years later. So, you know, that he could have been even better. I think if that next move from us was a Man United or Arsenal, or if it was Chelsea first team there, then he would have got many more England caps, would have been a stalwart for England for 8 years or whatever it was until he finally retired. You know, he still had a brilliant career. Like, he went and played for West Ham and's considered a legend there. Won Football Writers Player of the Year. He did captain England for a game or two, I think. I think Stuart Pearce might have given him the captain's armband for a game. You know, if he was 21 and you offered him those opportunities, he'd say, of course I'll do that. But I think every Charlton fan looks back and goes, it's almost like you have to remind people. I did some debate at work, right? This guy at work said, Jordan Henderson's one of the best midfielders of the last 20 years or whatever. And I said, Scott Parker was a better player than Jordan Henderson, hands down.
I don't disagree with you at all.
Obviously, people don't recognise that. Yeah, people don't recognise that because they think of Scott Parker when he's a little bit older and sat back, who's still a brilliant player. But they don't remember, like clips that you've just shown me, Jordan Henderson that doesn't score a goal like that at all. You know, and that's probably what the great shame for Charlton fans, seeing Scott develop from being a kid to a first team player that he wasn't able to reach the heights of, say, Champions League or something.
It's such a shame. I mean, it is so sad, but he shouldn't have been such a prick. There you go. Right, next player. Who else you gone for in the middle?
Right, this is my Maverick 11 creeping on me here. A player that I loved watching, fantastic goals, wouldn't work hard, let's be honest. This wasn't his game. He'd rely on people like Josh Cullen being behind him or the previous. And Nick Kinsella was just a little bit too. His best performance for Charlton came before I was a fan, so that's why he wasn't considered for my team. But I know people loved him. But it's Klaus Jensen. Klaus Jensen is. This is why. This is why. This is a joke. I mean, can you imagine that now?
Before we came on, I said to Greg, make sure you unmute your mic because it automatically mutes it when a video comes on. You just sit there and you have to just... I just watched that with my mouth open. Like, it's unbelievable. What Charlton player tries that? A chip from the edge of the box against Lehmann. He was unreal.
It's just, yeah, it's just that's my favourite all-time Charlton goal, without a shadow of a doubt. And I wasn't at that game, but it's my favourite goal in terms of quality, at least. Maybe not in terms of sentimental, but in terms of that is a goal that you'd see from the best players in the world. Probably less so now. Nowadays, if Cruyff turned it past about 10 times before having a shot. You know, just having that awareness, that quality to spot a keeper off his line, chip him. I mean, we're talking against what was then going on to become the Premier League champions, and 2 years later would be the Invincibles. You know, and he was a player that delivered in moments like that and moments of real quality. A lot of probably famous Charlton wins and moments have come via Klaus Jensen.
So I'm of the old school, and my first game was in 94, 95, I think. So my players were John Robinson, Mark Kinsella, players that played with passion and just hard hitting. So when Jensen came through and he was getting in above Robinson and Kinsella, I actually wrote must have been 9-year-old me, wrote a letter to Alan Kirbishley saying, I don't know what Jensen's doing in training, but why are you playing him? Because every week he just walks around like he doesn't want to be there. But then when you sit back and you go, when you've got that much quality, you don't need to do that. You can appreciate that as a fan now, but at the time I was like, he's not running, he's not doing anything. Why is he not doing anything?
And I think that's what a great mark of Curbs' managerial qualities was, that he did manage players differently. I mean, you speak to him now, and he'll tell you that he knew that certain players wouldn't do certain things. So trying to get him to do that wasn't the case. But he knew that Klaus would give everything, but in giving everything, that meant maybe not tracking back. Wasn't because he wasn't giving everything, it's because he knew he could deliver down the other end. And when we had the foundation we did then, in terms of the defence we had, the characters we had in that squad that could help guide us through performances and guide young players through. I mean, we spoke about plenty of them so far, and as many I might have missed out. But if you've got players like Mark Kinsella, Steve Brown, Luke Young, Chris Powell behind you, you get freedom to go and express yourself, do things like that, and you'd be allowed to, and that's why I've kind of put him in this diamond formation, because I know that he probably won't track back much. You've got Scott Parker and Josh Cullen who can do that. But he will come off that left-hand side and he will score bending free kicks, corners, whipping long-range strikes, and will open up play. And again, growing up, these are players that I loved, the players that you remember, the moments you remember. And while it kind of contradicts what I'm like as a person now, where I'm a bit like you, I love players like Dobbo and players that fight and try and win the ball back, and you mentioned Josh Cullen. But equally, I do love a Maverick. I do love players that get you out of the seat. I love Corey Blackie-Taylor. I love players that you can get the ball to and you don't know what they're going to do, because you need them. You need players like that. Because if we think that, we watch these players every week, what's the defender going to think? What's some opposition manager going to think? They're not going to know. And you're going to get frustrated. You're probably going to get annoyed. But these players will win you games.
So are we going to the top of the diamond or the base of the three up front?
let's call it the top of the base, because this player can drop in, but is more renowned being a striker. But I had to fit in my other two strikers. But this man is my favourite all-time Charlton player, and that is Jan Kermigan. I mean, I just love that. I actually so I got a funny story about this actually. Just before coming on this podcast, member of the comms team messaged me saying, "Oh, it's Jan's birthday coming up. I think it might be at the time of recording tomorrow or a few days' time. Because he knows he's my favorite. What's your favorite Jan moment?" And I ended up going on YouTube and looking up my favorite Jan moments, and I forgot how many goals were incredible. It was just like we just took it for granted almost at the time that he'd whip in a free kick from like that free kick. Like it doesn't look that great. Like watching that back, it's not like an incredible free kick. But if that happens now, you're like, oh, what a free kick. Bent over, brilliant. But then it was kind of routine.
So this is where I kind of have to admit my kind of one of my biggest embarrassments as a Charlton fan. I went first game in 94, 95, and all the way up until 2007, I had a season ticket, and that was the year I went to university. And then Roland came in, kind of wiped the slate clean, and I kind of fell out of love with the team while I was at uni. I didn't keep my season ticket after the first year. That was the first year we went down. So this is kind of like my nomad period. So Kermigan to me is just a name, and I've just got the clips. But in terms of that team, it sounds like he was kind of the absolute be all and end all of that, like what the good stuff that was happening in that team. He was just the outlet for everything. And you kind of look at that as being the big stepping stone, because he wasn't really known much before that. And then from there, he goes and had this incredible career. He just sounds like he was Mr. Charlton.
Yeah, and I think you've summed it up quite well in terms of that was a period where people fell out of the club, didn't enjoy going and watch us. And then Chris Powell came back, gave us a little bit of Charlton, but then we struggled that first 6 months with him in, and then we, as we spoke about earlier, completely changed the squad. And Jan was the late addition to that squad. We'd already started the season really well. And I remember I think we played Reading, I want to say, in a cup game. And every fan got given like a piece of paper that said, "Oh, Charlton have signed Jan Kermigan." And it's kind of like, oh, really? Like, wasn't he the guy who tried chipping that penalty against Leicester like a couple of years ago? Or for Leicester a couple of years ago? Like, that doesn't seem like a Chris Powell signing of recent times. And you imagine you're building a stereotype of this arrogant, somebody who doesn't really care much. But then you start going, well, hang on, Chris played with him at Leicester. There must be a reason why he's given him a chance. And I remember the first game he played, he came on as a substitute at home. We played Chesterfield, and he chested the ball down and sent someone through. I was like, cool, that was a bit of class. That was a great assist. And then the week later, I think he got the winner against Sheffield United or MK Dons. He got a goal anyway. He scored a goal. And then he just gradually became this Charlton hero. And if you look at his life, where he had leukemia as a kid, the downs moments he had in his life with the moment at Leicester and what he ended up becoming, it kind of is relatable with Charlton, the bad moments leading up to those special times. And Jan, for me, was a player that basically what this team is based on is him. He was a bit of a maverick. He was eccentric as a player. He did overhead kicks. He volleyed from 40 yards. But equally, he did the running. He did the working. Yeah. I'll never forget that playoff year. And I wish, like how we have with Charlton TV, we had it for back then because we could look at these things. But I'll never forget, there was a game at home. We had a corner, and the corner came in, and this team, I can't remember who it was, it might be someone like Carlisle or something, broke on the counter-attack. And Jan standing in the penalty area, he's a striker, standing in the penalty area, towards the edge of the penalty area, and this team's counter-attacked. And I've seen Jan sprint. Bearing in mind he wasn't the quickest. He was not slow, but he wasn't the quickest. He has sprinted past other players, past the opposition, in towards our own half. And this player from the opposition team's done a diagonal, about to release someone to, if they get a good control, go through on goal. And Jan has come out of nowhere, retreating back to his own penalty area, and his overhead kick cleared it away from the player. And I'm not exaggerating. That's exactly what happened. I'm thinking, like, you're a striker.
That's insane.
And it was during this period where everything he touched turned to, like, everyone turned to goal. Like, everyone loved him. And it was that kind of thing where, and I put him on my side at the top of the diamond for that reason, because I think he can drop in. He can be, he's a creative play. He could link up play, and then he can get in the box and score as well. But, you know, he was a fantastic player to watch. And the day we sold him, I was at my uni campus in Eastbourne, I was based. And I'll never forget just feeling completely and utterly broken by it. It was kind of like, this is a sign that this Roland Duchâtelet era is not going to go well for us.
Yeah. That's the problem with ownerships, isn't it? You can only judge them on their decisions, and you only know that when it's too late. And it's just how it goes. You can't predict that, can you? You don't know what's actually going on behind the scenes.
No, exactly. No. But yeah, he's a player that if I could bring back any Charlton player, I know a question that might be coming up later, but it won't be for that necessarily. But if I could bring back a Charlton player to have one more season of watching and enjoying, it's weirdly him for the reason that the way it finished was wrong. It should never have ended the way it did. So for me, that was a tough period being a Charlton fan when he left.
Stop making me emotional, Greg. God.
I can't help it, man. I'm emotional. I can't help it.
Right, your two out-and-out strikers then. Who, I mean, again, I think we're going to struggle to find other ones to play to beat these two. So who's you going to go for first?
Yeah, first one, Paolo Di Canio.
Right, this is a very short clip.
Paolo Di Canio is yet to score in the Premiership for Charlton Athletic. He has now.
Has anyone ever tried a Panenka for Charlton? I can't think of a single person to try that other than him.
Yeah, and the reason I picked Paolo Di Canio is because when we signed him, I remember thinking, what? Like, Paolo Di Canio? Like, this is a player that, you know, was fantastic for West Ham, a legend at West Ham. Man United 2 seasons before were really close to signing him.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, he was mid-30s, almost mid-30s. But I remember thinking, like, this is a player that, wow, he's joining my team. You know, and as I said, I was gradually becoming more and more a fan around that period. And, you know, that season was the best season I've had as a fan. We finished 7th in the Premier League. He was at the heart of it. Did he score loads of goals? No. Did he create memorable moments? Yeah, but he wasn't a constant, you know, outstanding player for us. He was just brilliant when he did play. He was always skillful, always creative. By the sounds of it, inspired loads of players around him and made players better around him. Players almost stepped up another level because they saw Paolo in training, you know, doing the things he does. And I think for as a fan, when I'm building a side, my favourite Charlton team, or, you know, mixture of favourite and best, he applies both, because he is a player that you'd go and watch. He'd give his all, no matter what. I love the story that the legend has it that I think Peter Varney told this story. The legend has it one of the reasons he signed was because he watched a DVD of us, like a centenary DVD where it had all our moments in history. And I love that. That sums him up. Like, he's passionate. And look, I know he's not perfect by any stretch of the means. You know, we won't go into those details, but you know, I just think purely from a footballing point of view, from a playing point of view, you know, I talked about my favourite seasons, and obviously that 03-04 season was that, and he was at the heart of that. And having him and Jan Kermigan as two of his striking options is ridiculous.
Good. Amazing. I mean, there's so many good stories. I love the story about how Kerbishley signed him and all that stuff, but we are at an hour and 10 minutes, and we've still got a lot to go through. So I'll save them for another time. Luckily, I think that someone else might pick him, so I'll go into those then. But yeah, fantastic player. So the last name on the team sheet, who's the
Darren Bent. Darren Bent.
Radisson has flicked it on, and Darren Bent is closing in on goal.
So I've got this clip from a best top 50, I think it's top 50 or 25 goals from Darren Bent. Like, this is just a few of the ones he scored. I mean, just the most prolific striker we've ever had, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, You know, again, I was too young for Clive Dunker. The pace of him as a striker was brilliant. And as I said, I was too young for Clive Mendonca, so it came from a period where we had Sean Bartley, Jonathan Johansson, who were fantastic workers, like worked their socks off for Charlton, but weren't prolific goal scorers. Would get
Matthias
Svensson similar. Yeah, they'd get 7 to 10 goals a season maximum. You know, we didn't have a 15+ striker at that point, and the last one we had was probably Andy Hunt and Clive Mendonca, who finished their career before I started watching us play. So, you know, with Darren, it was, as a fan watching him, you knew that you were always in the game because he's capable of scoring a goal somehow, whether it's on the counter attack, whether it's a tap in, great pace. Again, another player who played for England while representing Charlton. You know, and left foot, right foot, he could do it all really. And it was kind of strange because when he joined, there wasn't that much expectation on him to do that. I think it was more a case of, this is a player that we could tap into to score 10 goals, you know, and be a bit of a pacey player. But fair play to him. He went on and had a great career, really. And again, maybe the move after us probably let him down slightly, joining Spurs, who had a lot of class strikers at the time. You know, I don't know who else was after him, but if he went and joined a similar team to us, in terms of like a team that was mid-table, he probably would have had a better career, maybe. Might have got a big move after that.
The big thing I think for him that fucked his career was not going to the World Cup in 2006 and choosing Walcott over the highest. Like he was at the point he'd scored the most amount of goals in the Premier League for an English player, more than Rooney, more than anyone. And sorry, it's before Rooney, wasn't it? Whoever it was, he'd scored the most amount of players.
Rooney, you're right, yeah.
It was Rooney, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and so Walcott comes along and he's quick. So he goes in the team. That blew my mind because I think that sort of, you hear him talk about it now, and I think it did maybe damage his confidence a little bit. And then he goes on to Spurs where he's amazing, but obviously, like you said, he's got such big competition. And he never really climbs up the rungs from there. He stays in the Premier League for a long time, gets a bounce off of a beach ball, all those kind of things. But that's pretty much the biggest story afterwards, I think. I think he really did hit the heights of Charlton, like Parker, another one.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think there was spells with Sunderland, weren't there, where he got 20 odd again, maybe.
Yeah.
That's when he got back in the England team. But yeah, I mean, the World Cup is the biggest disgrace out of all of them. Like that, you imagine that happening now? Like, oh no, sorry, we're not going to pick Ollie Watkins or Ivan Toney, a player like that, because we've got a 17-year-old who's coming through the academy who looks fucking good, so we're going to put him in. And so that for me is that still hurts us as a fan now, because you know
it was for a Charlton kid turning up to school. Suddenly you got Chris Powell, Luke Young have made it into the team. Darren Bent goes in. Charlton are a team now, but. And I'll give Sven so much credit for choosing Powell because, you know, he goes around, looks at all the players who play in that position who are English. Well, this is the best one. I'm going to pick him. Brilliant. Why not do it for your striker? Really.
It cost England that tournament. Rooney got injured. We didn't have another striker we had Crouchy, but we didn't really have Darius Vassell. Was he still playing during that period? I can't remember.
I think, yeah. So this is how your team looks, Greg. Here we go. Let's see if I can do it.
Yeah, I've got that. Oh,
does that come up? There we go.
That came up for me, mate. That looked good.
Add to stage. There we go. So I'm still learning all the buttons. Right. Okay. What are you thinking?
Yeah, mate. I love it. I mean, I think one of the reasons why I picked a diamond as well, struggling for wingers. We weren't a team that had explosive wingers in the Premier League years. You know, we had.
I'd argue there's no width. That's the only thing I'm going to say. I mean, I can't see, as good as Powell and Young were, I don't remember them getting into that sort of final third and delivering crosses that much. Young maybe more than Powell, but they were both workers, weren't they? Rather than
yeah, I think the way I'd do this, if we're getting really tactical,
let's
if you want to go into this, if you want to go to Football Manager style, I'll do it, mate. Don't you worry. But I'd probably switch Parker and Jensen, have Jensen off the left, Parker off the right, and basically just hold the fort. The same way like Darren Prattley played in the right side for Charlton in that 1920 season. Was he a crosser? No. Was he get wide? No. We had Anthony Dicksteele as right back. left back was Ben Purrington. They weren't explosive fullbacks either. Like the diamond can be played if your midfielders help and you might be more narrow. Di Canio can come off from the left, push Kermorgant up, etc. There's ways around it with a diamond. If I was to go width, it might have been someone like Andy Reid, who's probably a little bit unlucky to miss out. Probably the only reason he's not in there is because he played for us during the period that was a bad time for Charlton. Like,
his ball, like his left foot was like a magician. Like he could get it anywhere into. It was amazing, and he was so short and fat. I never understood that.
Yeah, well, it's a role model, mate. Absolute role model. That's the levels you want to get to. Gives us all hope, you know. I loved him. Yeah. They're similar with Chris Perry, not the fat bit, but the short bit. I said when I was coming through, I was playing defence, and he was a young. He was a shorter centre half, and similar to me. Like I was 5'8" or whatever. I used to be like, you got him, you got Chris Perry, Cannavaro.
Best things in small packages, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, in all honesty, if we were picking a side to win the Champions League or something, like there's probably a couple of players here that you'd probably swap out. But in terms of a one-off match, I'd love to see that team play. That would be carnage. That team. You might get smacked. There's a lot of goals.
There's a lot of goals. I don't know about. I think Costa. I don't know about how well Corey's defending, but you got Young and Power there, who were two of the best defenders we've ever had. So, who are you having? Who's managing them?
It's got to be Curbs. It's got to. I might get a word in my ear. I might get the old finger wag if I don't pick Curbs. I tell you what, from Curbs, from a person point of view, when we started doing Charlton TV, I was in awe and a little bit worried, but I was a bit what's he going to be like as a person? And the biggest thing I say about Curbs, he's one of the funniest human beings I've ever met. He off air is extremely witty. He's sharp because he grew up in East London. He grew up with like brothers. Like we forget that because he, as a manager, he was quite sensible and wouldn't really say much in the press to give things away. But I think that's why players played well for him, because he's got this kind of aura of like authority. That even now, like he controls that Charlton TV studio. Like Brownie. I'll never forget. I went in. I had to do I did a halftime thing at Charlton TV, and I went into the studio at halftime, and then Brownie was doing commentary with Tell at the time, and Brownie was talking about something. You just see Curbs turn to the TV. Fucking sharp, Brownie. I'm trying to take it, mate. I couldn't start laughing. I was like, I wasn't expecting it.
Oh, I love that. I've never seen him break it. I've never seen him break character, but I remember like in every interview, everything he's ever done, I've always seen such a poised, professional, I'll be honest, bit of a father figure, because like I said, when I was 4 or 5 and I went to my first game, or no, it was probably 6 or 7. From that point until I went to university, every Saturday I'd be listening to what Kerbishley had to say, and I'd see him in the pitch. Like I grew up with him, so after then it was like, oh, who are all these people? I don't like them. But I've never seen it. But my mate injured his knee, and he was sitting next to the dugout, and all he heard Kerbishley saying was, "Fucking Stewart's playing a fucking striker. What the fuck's he doing?" I was like, I never even knew that side of him existed.
Oh, mate, he's got a motor mouth. Yeah, it's another funny story, which I think I can tell. I'm not going to name the manager, but you probably guess who it was. But it wasn't a Charlton manager. But we were talking. I went into the studio before one of the games and I was saying hello, and we were talking about. He was talking about Russell Martin as a manager, and he said he went and watched him for the LMA or something, or he went to assess him, or he did something to do with him when he was at MK Dons. He said, "I couldn't believe it. He was swearing. He was saying fucking this and fucking that, fucking that." He said, "But he's not the worst I've ever seen." That was this person. The biggest clue I can give is that he's big. He's a big fella.
Okay. It might be in the name, maybe.
I went and watched him, and he was saying, "Can't this and can't that, fucking this and fucking that," and it was just the way he was saying it. I was just like, "Yeah, okay,
no, this isn't like it."
No, it's the opposite. It was more like, "This is crazy. This is amazing. Like, this is weird." But this way, he's just a really funny human being. He's really funny. He's he's modest. He's a modest person. Like, he's got a stand named after him. he sits in that stand to do on TV. Like You know,
I would have loved. I feel like as an England fan, we were a little bit let down him not becoming England manager, because I would have loved to see what he could do with players of that stature. He created what I think he did best was creating a club that worked, like Fergie. Like, he's created something that worked, and they ran it well, and he managed all those different players, but he was never Di Canio, Costa. He managed. He got the best out of those players. Whatever you want to say about us not having maybe the best quality of players, like the question I always wanted to ask Curbs was, you signed so many players like Di Canio and Costa where it really, really works, and they were big names and they came in. Who was the biggest name that really didn't work? Because when you think of Carlton Cole, Francis Jeffers was a big name at the time for Charlton. John Barnes, I know, was at the end of his career, but there were players that it just didn't. I just wonder, like, who and why didn't it, and what was there? But I think with England, he would have done something really special.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think for him as well, I think he just loved Charlton. I think he loved the environment, you know, and you have to survive in one place for a considerable amount of time and have a lot of success. You've got to be talented. You've got to be a good manager of people. And, you know, I think he had definitely, speaking to people, had a hostile part of him that probably fell out of players maybe a little bit too soon.
I reckon you need that. I mean, Fergie wasn't a pussycat, was he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think he gets unfairly tainted as this because of the period of managers during that time. Like Tony Pulis was a little bit after him, I suppose, but like Sam Allardyce, people like, he gets unfairly tainted as this old school manager at the time. He wasn't at all. Like, he was a manager, you know, Charlton weren't a boring side to play under him. West Ham, he managed Tevez, got the best out of Tevez for West Ham. That was a period when Mascherano and Tevez weren't playing at all for the club, and he managed to get Tevez, and they survived dramatically, really, beat Man United on the final day.
Yeah.
And got unfairly treated at West Ham and never got another Premier League job. Like, he could have gone to, you know, if what hadn't happened at West Ham, he could have gone to another team and done similar and could have still been managing now. You know, and that's the remarkable thing about football, is that you know, things change overnight, and we see successful managers now, like someone like Sean Dyche. He might stop and never manage again, and you know that's what football managing is the brutal reality of it, I suppose.
I mean, I'm not going to feel too sorry for him. The amount of holidays that guy has is unbelievable. I don't think he's too having a bad time.
To be fair to God, I don't think he wants sympathy. I think he enjoys his life. But yeah, he's a funny character. And I love working with him on Charlton TV. He's fantastic on there, and the fact he was at the Cray Valley game the other day as well. Actually, like he'll go to games constantly. He loves it. His grandson's pretty much a Charlton fan, I think.
Oh, brilliant!
So he'll love us to the day he passes. Right,
Greg, we've nearly been talking for an hour and a half, so I'm going to wind up with one more question, which is, if you had to swap out one, is it still? Here we go. I'll go back to smooth way to end. There we go. So if you had to swap out one, you got the team on your...
Yeah.
If you had to swap out one player in your all-time 11 with a current player, who would you swap out?
For a current player?
So if you had to lose one of the players that you picked in your all-time 11 and choose someone who's in the current squad to replace them, who would you swap out?
Oh, I thought you were going down the lines of, like, I have to pick a player out of our current team to say you're off, mate.
No, I don't have that power. Greg. I can't just get rid of players.
Conversation.
No, who would you swap?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is an easy one because I think they're a bit like for like, but I'll have Dobbo for sure. Have Dobbo at that base in the midfield. Josh Cullen can come out. I think Dobbo's similar to Josh in the sense it gives his all. Fans love him. I think there's still more to Dobbo's game that he can progress. I think he's a good player. Being taken my Charlton bias opinions aside, I think he's a good player, but I think he can get to another level, especially in League One. But yeah, I think he's a player that could, you know, you could put him in that team and he'd perform well, basically. You know, and I think we do have talented players in our squad, but
we do, yeah.
I think you know, I think you look at that team, you've got talent. You don't need any more. You don't need to put Corey. You don't need to put Miles or Alfie in there.
DK.
Chuks can come off the bench. He can come off the bench. He can disrupt. I've not got no qualms about that. He can come. Ticanio can run the target for 70 minutes and Chuks can have 30 minutes. But yeah, for me, I think Dobbo would complement this team well.
Love that. Do you reckon we keep him in January and at the end of the season?
Yeah, you hope so. I mean, he loves it at Charlton. You know, he's captain. I think, as I said, I think he's still got more to improve, and I think he would do that more with Charlton than if he joined a Championship team, was second choice in midfield, or third choice, fourth choice. You know, but he loves it here. I think it just depends where we are. If come the end of the season we've had another really disappointing season, or even by January we're lower mid-table or whatever, and it doesn't look like we're progressing anywhere, then and he gets an offer from a team that we can't refuse, then you might see that as an opportunity. But you know, he went to Sunderland and it didn't work out for him there, and you know we've kind of helped build him back up, and I think he understands that. You know, if it wasn't for us, he might be. I think he'd still be in League One. He's always been a League One player, but he might not have had as much success in terms of playing week in, week out, becoming a captain. But fair play to him. Like, he's a great guy as well, and he's very well liked. And as I said, I think hopefully come January we're in a good position that he will want to stay at least till the end of the season, if not beyond.
I mean, it's one of those things, again, going back to Kerbishley and that team. Kerb's always said if we didn't go up against Sunderland, he was really worried because there's a lot of teams sniffing around that team. And I do worry if we don't do something this year, you could lose so many of our good players. I know there's talk, obviously Corey Blackett's up, contracts up at the end of the year. Dobson, does Alfie May stick around? Like they're big players that have done well, could easily play at the bottom end of the Championship easily. And the other thing with Dobbo is, out of nowhere, he's suddenly one of the best strikers of the ball we've got. I mean, that goal he scored, was it the first game of the season? Where'd that come from? He just
it's Corey won in the cup. Yeah,
unbelievable.
It's what he's been working on. He's been working on. You know, he's a better passer now than when he first joined. 100%. He's better distribution. He's better, quicker on the half turn. He drives. I made this comparison online and he got slated a bit, and I thought it was a bit harsh. But I said that, you know, he played with Declan Rice. He's a West Ham fan. He idolised Declan Rice from a fan's point of view. And I think you watch how Declan's progressed his career. And I'm not trying to say Dobbo's going to be playing for England or bloody Arsenal. I'm not saying that at all, or even Premier League. But in terms of when you're trying to improve your own game, you look at someone similar to you, plays the same position, and think, well, what have they done differently about their game? And Declan Rice is a fantastic dribbler of the ball from midfield. Dobbo 2 or 3 years ago would get the ball and would be trapped, and he'll concede possession. Now he has the ability to turn on a half turn. He'll dummy. He'll bring others into play. He'll look for the one-touch pass over the shoulder. You're telling me that's a coincidence? You know, he has looked at other players in that area and thought, well, what are they doing to get to the next level? And I'm going to do that. I think it's very telling that when Ben Garner came in, one of his big signings that summer was Conor McGrandles. I think there was potentially a long-term view of maybe McGrandles could replace Dobson in that base of midfield. But I think Garner himself was perhaps surprised by how good Dobson started that season in that position. And, you know, that's full credit to him.
He's done it under each manager that's come in has kind of made Dobson sub for that first game. And they've all been kind of just beaten down. He's just too good. You can't leave him out. Greg, that's been absolutely fantastic. What a way to start this off. Thank you so much. That's been
no worries, mate.
Well, the plan is to do 10 and then do another series. So maybe we'll have you back for that. Maybe there'll be a Christmas special. Who knows? But you've been absolutely fantastic, mate. Thank you so much.
No worries at all, mate. No, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, no, mate, I could have gone on for hours. So sorry, a bit too much, but
I mean, an hour and a half. We've done well, I think.
Well, I'll probably take out 10 minutes for your signal, mate. Well,
yeah.
So, but yeah, no,
apologies again for that. I don't know how I'm going to cut that out yet. We'll find out. It'll be fine. All right, lovely stuff, Greg. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
No worries, mate.
Tell everyone to like and subscribe.
Everyone like and subscribe. Go and do it. I'll be doing it. First subscriber coming your way, mate.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. I'll speak to you a bit.